WWE superstars are larger than life, but some of them have also had run-ins with the law that should have ended their careers. From street fights, drug scandals, DUIs, and even attempted murder, these wrestlers broke the law, and somehow they still walked free. Stay till the very end, because one of these cases is so bad that it almost shut down WWE forever. Number 1 on our list is Scott Hall. Long before he was known as Razor Ramon in WWE or a founding member of the NWO in WCW, Hall was just a young man working to make ends meet. But on January 15th, 1983, his life changed forever. That night, Hall was working as a bartender at a nightclub in Orlando, Florida, when he got into a heated altercation with a customer. What started as a simple dispute quickly escalated into something far more dangerous. The argument spilled outside, where the man smashed the windows of Hall's car, setting off a violent confrontation. Things spiraled out of control when the man pulled out a gun. In the struggle, Hall managed to wrestle the firearm away from him, but in a split second he pulled the trigger. The man was shot in the head and died on the spot. Hall was immediately arrested and charged with second-degree murder, but due to a lack of sufficient evidence, the case was eventually dropped and Hall walked free. Legally, he was a free man, but mentally, he was never the same again. Hall later admitted that the incident haunted him for decades. He struggled with guilt, depression, and substance abuse, which followed him even as he rose to superstardom in professional wrestling. Despite his incredible success in the ring, his personal demons remained, proving that some scars never heal, even when the law says you're innocent. Number 2 on our list is Lex Luger. Lex Luger was once an icon of the wrestling world, but his life took a dark and tragic turn in 2003. On May 1st, 2003, Luger's girlfriend, the legendary Miss Elizabeth, was found dead in his home due to a drug overdose. While Luger wasn't charged in her death, what happened next shattered his reputation. When police searched his home, they uncovered a staggering stash of illegal substances, steroids, painkillers, muscle relaxers, and other prescription drugs, totaling over 1,000 pills. Luger was immediately arrested for drug possession. The wrestling world, already aware of his downward spiral, now saw him as the man responsible, fairly or unfairly, for the tragic end of Miss Elizabeth. Instead of a lengthy prison sentence, Luger received probation, but in many ways his punishment was far worse. His career was finished, his reputation was in ruins. The once total package was now a cautionary tale. A man whose fame and fortune had led him down a path of destruction, one that cost him everything. Number 3 on our list is Jeff Hardy. Jeff Hardy is one of the most beloved high flyers in WWE history, a daredevil whose fearless stunts and jaw-dropping swanton bombs have left fans in awe for decades. But while he's taken countless risks inside the ring, his battles outside the ropes have been even more dangerous and far more costly. Throughout his career, Hardy has struggled with addiction and legal troubles, leading to multiple arrests for DUI, public intoxication, and drug possession. His self-destructive habits have not only jeopardized his legendary career, but have also put his life at risk. One of the most shocking incidents came in 2022 when Hardy was pulled over in Florida for driving under the influence on a suspended license. The details were terrifying. Dashcam footage showed him barely able to stand, and his blood alcohol level was nearly 4 times the legal limit. It was yet another heartbreaking moment for fans who had hoped that Hardy had finally conquered his demons. Yet somehow, despite these repeated missteps, Jeff Hardy has always found his way back into the wrestling world. Whether it's WWE, AEW, or the independent circuit, promotions have continuously given him another chance, hoping that this time he'll stay on the right path. But the real question remains, will this pattern ever end? Can Hardy truly escape the cycle of redemption and relapse that has defined his personal struggles for so long? Or will his next mistake cost him more than just his career? Will it be the one he can't come back from? Now, of course, we can't talk about WWE wrestlers getting away with crimes without mentioning the biggest criminal mastermind of them all. Yes, the number 4 on our list is none other than Vince McMahon. Behind his multi-billion-dollar success is a history of lawsuits, criminal investigations, and dark allegations. From steroid scandals to shocking sexual misconduct accusations, Vince McMahon's off-screen story is even crazier than WWE's most extreme storylines. And yet, he has walked away away from every scandal without a single conviction. Let's go back to 1994, when WWE's entire future hung by a thread. Vince McMahon was facing federal charges for distributing steroids to his wrestlers. McMahon was allegedly provided illegal steroids to WWE wrestlers and encouraged their use. The trial was a media circus. Hulk Hogan, WWE's biggest star at the time, was forced to testify against his former boss. The government was sure they had McMahon cornered, but somehow he walked away scot-free. The jury acquitted him and Vince went right back to running WWE like nothing ever happened. Was it pure luck, or was McMahon's power in the industry just too strong to take him down? But if you thought the steroid scandal was bad, it doesn't even come close to the allegations that surfaced in recent years. For decades, multiple women have accused Vince McMahon of sexual misconduct. One of the most serious cases, in 2024, former WWE employee Janelle Grant filed a lawsuit accusing McMahon of sexual assault and trafficking. The lawsuit claimed that McMahon used his power and influence to control and exploit her. And this wasn't the first time. In the 1980s, former WWE referee Rita Chatterton accused McMahon of rape. For years, these allegations stayed in the shadows. But in 2022, reports surfaced that McMahon had paid millions in hush money to silence victims. The payments were hidden from WWE's financial records, which led to an investigation by the US Securities and Exchange Commission. When WWE's board found out about these secret hush money payments, they forced McMahon to step down as WWE's chairman in 2022. And if that wasn't bad enough, the SEC launched an investigation into WWE's financial records. They found out that McMahon had misreported over $1.3 million in payments, which led to a $400,000 fine. Most CEOs would be completely finished after a scandal like this. But what did McMahon do? He waited, then forced his way back into WWE in 2023, selling the company to Endeavor in a multi-billion-dollar deal. Even with lawsuits piling up, Vince McMahon still came out richer than ever. And this brings us to number 5 on our list, Alberto Del Rio. Alberto Del Rio was once seen as WWE's next megastar, a charismatic performer with a legitimate fighting background, a championship pedigree, and the perfect blend of arrogance and technical skill. Billed as a wealthy aristocrat with an elaborate entrance and a personal ring announcer, Del Rio seemed destined for greatness. But behind the scenes, his personal life was spiraling into chaos. In 2017, that chaos spilled into public view. Del Rio was arrested for domestic battery at Orlando International Airport, following a heated and violent altercation with his then-girlfriend, fellow wrestler Paige. Witnesses described a disturbing scene, with Paige seen in distress and Del Rio allegedly becoming aggressive and abusive. The incident sent shockwaves through the wrestling world, tarnishing his once promising legacy. But things only got worse. In 2020, Del Rio's reputation took an even darker turn when he was charged with sexual assault after deeply disturbing allegations surfaced. According to reports, he had kidnapped and assaulted a woman, subjecting her to hours of violence and threats. The charges were severe, with potential consequences that could have put him behind bars for decades. Yet despite multiple arrests and horrifying accusations, Del Rio somehow managed to avoid serious prison time. Charges were later dropped, but by then, the damage was irreparable. His name was now synonymous with controversy, violence, and scandal. But there was one thing he couldn't escape: the end of his career. WWE, already distancing itself from him due to his erratic behavior and repeated legal troubles, cut ties with him permanently. He went from being a multi-time world champion and main eventer to a disgraced figure exiled from the industry that once embraced him. Today, Del Rio's wrestling reputation remains in shambles, a far cry from the days when he was seen as the next big thing. His fall from grace serves as a harsh reminder that talent and success mean nothing when self-destruction takes over. Number 6 on our list is Booker T. Booker T wasn't always a wrestling king. Before stepping into the ring, he was an actual criminal. Long before he became a 6-time world champion, long before the Spinneroonie electrified crowds, and long before he was crowned King Booker, Booker T. Huffman was just a troubled teenager heading down the wrong path. Growing up in Houston, Texas, Booker faced a tough childhood. Orphaned at a young age, he was raised by his older brother, Stevie Ray. Struggling to make ends meet, he turned to crime, making one fateful decision decision that could have ruined his entire life. One night, Booker and a group of friends, including his brother, robbed a Wendy's restaurant at gunpoint. It wasn't just a one-time thing. They had pulled off a string of armed robberies at fast food joints before they were eventually caught. At just 22 years old, Booker was arrested, convicted of aggravated robbery, and sentenced to 5 years in prison. But he was fortunate. He served only 19 months before being released on parole. That could have been the end of his story. Another statistic, another young man who wasted his potential. But unlike most stories on this list, Booker turned his life around. Determined to leave his past behind, Booker took a job as a gas station attendant and later worked at a storage facility. But fate had other plans. With the encouragement of his brother Stevie, he entered a wrestling school where his natural athleticism, charisma, and hard work made him a standout. Soon he was tearing through the ranks of WCW, winning championship gold, dazzling audiences with his unmatched energy, and carving out a legacy as one of the most beloved wrestlers of all time. His journey from a convict to a champion is one of the rare true redemption stories in wrestling. Number 7 on our list is Randy Orton. Randy Orton is known as the Viper for a reason, because he's been snaky inside and outside the ring. Inside the squared circle, Orton is one of the most dangerous and calculated wrestlers of all time. His cold-blooded persona, ruthless aggression, and signature RKO out of nowhere have made him a legend. But outside the ring, his behavior has been just as controversial as his in-ring character. Back in 2007, while WWE was on a European tour, Orton made headlines for all the wrong reasons. Reports surfaced that he had completely trashed a hotel room, causing thousands of dollars in damages. Allegedly, Orton left the room in such bad shape that hotel staff were horrified when they entered. Broken furniture, ruined walls, cigarette burns. The Viper had made sure the place looked like a disaster zone. Normally, something like this would lead to legal trouble, fines, or even being kicked off the tour, but not for Randy Orton. Instead of facing serious consequences, WWE quietly handled the situation behind the scenes. No arrests, no suspensions. Orton remained a top star and the incident was swept under the rug. But that's not even the worst part. Over the years, Orton has been accused of inappropriate behavior backstage, with one of the most shocking allegations coming from former WWE writers. According to reports, Orton would deliberately expose himself to new WWE staff as part of a disturbing backstage initiation. He would then challenge them to shake his hand, refusing to lower his pants until they did. In any other workplace, this kind of behavior would lead to immediate termination. But in WWE, not only did Orton keep his job, he was rewarded with multiple world title runs. Despite the scandals, Orton continued to be one of WWE's most protected superstars. No amount of controversy could keep the Viper from striking again, and again, and again. Number 8 on our list is Jimmy Uso. As one half of the Usos, Jimmy has dominated the tag team division for years, racking up championships and helping to cement the bloodline as one of the most powerful factions in WWE history. But when he's not in the ring, his track record isn't exactly championship worthy. In 2019, Jimmy was arrested for drunk driving after police officers noticed him speeding and swerving erratically on the road. But what makes this case even crazier? He almost crashed into a police car. That's right. Jimmy was so intoxicated that he nearly hit a cop while behind the wheel. Normally, something like this would land you in serious legal trouble, especially for a public figure. But for Jimmy, he was released from custody the same night, and WWE barely did anything to discipline him. No suspension, no major fines, just business as usual for one of WWE's top tag team stars. Now, you'd think he'd learn his lesson after that close call, right? Nope. In 2021, Jimmy Uso was arrested again for another DUI. This time he was pulled over for speeding at 50 miles per hour in a 35 miles per hour zone. And when officers conducted a breathalyzer test, his blood alcohol level was nearly double the legal limit. At this point, fans expected WWE to finally take action, maybe suspend him or even send him to rehab. But guess what? WWE did nothing. Instead of punishing him, they kept pushing him as a main eventer, featuring him heavily in the Bloodline storylines alongside Roman Reigns. With multiple arrests and no real consequences, fans were left wondering, how does this guy keep getting away with it? Number 9 on our list is Tammy Sytch. Tammy Sytch was once the most downloaded woman on the internet, but today she's known for something far more tragic, her long and disturbing history of legal troubles. In the mid-90s, Sunny was a trailblazer in WWE. She was the company's original diva, managing some of the biggest stars in the business and becoming a massive fan favorite. In 1996, she was reportedly the most downloaded woman on the internet, surpassing even mainstream celebrities. But outside the ring, her personal life was spiraling out of control. Over the years, Sunny racked up an alarming number of arrests, with DUIs, disorderly conduct, and parole violations dominating her rap sheet. It seemed like every time she got out of trouble, she'd land right back in it. Things took a tragic turn in 2022 when Sunny made the worst decision of her life. While driving under the influence once again, she was involved in a fatal car crash that killed a 75-year-old man. This time, the consequences were far more severe. She was arrested and charged with DUI manslaughter, among other serious offenses. After years of getting second chances, Sunny wasn't so lucky this time. In 2023, she was sentenced to 17 years in prison. The once celebrated WWE Hall of Famer was now an inmate, with her legacy in wrestling completely erased. From one of WWE's biggest stars to one of its most tragic downfalls, Sunny's story is a chilling reminder of how fast fame can fade. Number 10 on our list is Stone Cold. We all know Stone Cold Steve Austin as the beer-chugging, rebellious Texas rattlesnake who gave Vince McMahon the middle finger every week. But in 2002, he crossed a line that no one expected. On June 15th, 2002, Austin's then-wife, Deborah Williams, a former WWE personality, called the police in distress. When officers arrived, they reportedly found her crying, with a large, noticeable welt beneath her right eye and visible injuries on her body. Austin had already fled the scene, and although police contacted him by phone, he was not immediately arrested. For 2 months, the case remained unresolved, with Austin seemingly dodging the legal consequences. But in August 2002, a warrant was finally issued for his arrest, and Austin turned himself in to San Antonio police. He was charged with assault with bodily injury, a misdemeanor, and was released on a $5,000 bond. When asked about the situation outside the courthouse, Austin refused to take accountability, simply stating nothing happened. 3 years later, Deborah told interviewers Stone Cold had jumped on her and pounded her in the back and her face. She also said she thought she was going to die. But despite the serious accusations, Austin pleaded no contest, received 1 year of probation, and was required to perform community service. Did WWE punish him? Nope. In fact, they welcomed him back just a few years later, treating him as an untouchable legend, completely erasing this dark chapter from his career. Number 11 on our list is New Jack. New Jack wasn't just a hardcore wrestler, he was a walking crime scene. With a history of extreme violence in and out of the ring, New Jack blurred the lines between wrestling and real-life assault. His most infamous crime, the 2004 stabbing incident. Wrestling for the Thunder Wrestling Federation, New Jack faced William Jason Lane in what was supposed to be a violent match. But no one expected what happened next. New Jack pulled out a hidden metal blade and stabbed his opponent 14 times. Lane was rushed to the hospital and New Jack was arrested for aggravated assault. The charges were later dropped, with both wrestlers claiming it was part of the show, but the footage told a different story. This wasn't just wrestling, it was attempted murder in the ring. New Jack continued his reckless ways, never truly facing legal consequences for his actions, cementing his legacy as one of wrestling's most dangerous men. Number 12 on our list is Ion Croitoru. Look up the word criminal in the dictionary, and you might just find a picture of Ion Croitoru. This Canadian-born wrestler, known as Johnny K9 in WWE, was a jobber in the ring, but a kingpin outside of it. Croitoru led his local chapter of the notorious Satan's Choice motorcycle gang, and his criminal record was as long as his wrestling career was short. He was involved in bombings, drug trafficking, and even murder plots. In 1996, Croitoru and his gang blew up a police station, causing over $133,000 in damages. But that was just the beginning. He was later charged with the murder of a lawyer and her husband, though the case collapsed in court. And in 2011, he was accused of another murder, but once again, he walked free. But as they say, sooner or later, the chickens come home to roost. And that's exactly what happened in this case. It wasn't until 2013 that justice finally caught up with him. He pleaded guilty to conspiring to murder rival gang members and was sentenced to prison, while many wrestlers in this video escaped punishment, and it seemed like Croitoru would also escape the justice, but he eventually paid the price for his crimes. This brings us to the most shocking WWE crime of all time. That infamous title belongs to none other than Jimmy Superfly Snuka. A high-flying legend of the wrestling world, Snuka was beloved by fans for his death-defying leaps off the top rope and his energetic in-ring persona. But outside the squared circle, a dark and disturbing mystery surrounded him for decades. On May 10th, 1983, Snuka's 23-year-old girlfriend Nancy Argentino was found dead in their Pennsylvania hotel room. Her body showed severe blunt force trauma to the head, and her autopsy revealed dozens of cuts and bruises, suggesting a history of physical abuse. Snuka's explanation? He claimed Nancy had fallen and hit her head. But the medical examiner wasn't convinced. In fact, he stated that the injuries were consistent with a person being shoved or beaten, not a simple fall. The report even recommended a homicide investigation, yet nothing happened. For more than 3 decades, the case remained unsolved, with Snuka never facing any charges. Many fans and journalists questioned how WWE, which was rapidly growing in power at the time, handled the situation. Did Snuka's celebrity status protect him? Did WWE help keep the case buried? It wasn't until 2015, over 30 years later, that police reopened the investigation, and this time, they weren't letting Snuka walk away so easily. Snuka was officially charged with third-degree murder and involuntary manslaughter in September 2015. But before the case could go to trial, his lawyers argued that he was mentally unfit due to dementia and terminal illness. In 2016, the judge ruled that Snuka was incapable of standing trial, and in 2017, Snuka passed away without ever answering for Nancy Argentino's death. Did Snuka escape justice? Or was WWE's influence the reason why the case stayed cold for decades? The truth may never be fully known, but the chilling mystery of Superfly's dark secret remains one of the most controversial stories in wrestling history. From domestic assaults, DUIs, drug charges, and even murder investigations, WWE's history with crime is shocking. Some wrestlers got second chances, some didn't. But one thing's for sure, not every hero inside the ring is a hero in real life. What do you think? Should WWE be tougher on wrestlers with criminal records? Or is it all part of the business? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing wrestling content only on Smackverse.